Would you date someone who is bold? Would you date someone who listens to Andrew Tate? Would you date someone who doesn't drive a car? These are very surface level questions. They don't really have a lot of depth to them, but I want you to think about the question, would you date? What this question actually refers to is, would you give? Would you surrender yourself? Would you sacrifice your energy, give your energy to another person if they were checking this box, if they were checking that box, if X, Y, Z? Some of these checkboxes you say no, but some of these checkboxes you say yes. And the funny thing is, a lot of people encompass or carry multiple checkboxes of where you're going to be saying no and you're going to be saying yes. Now, you might think that the person who has more checkboxes is the person you are going to date or the person whom you are going to be romantically interested in for the foreseeable future, but that may not always be the case, because what if the checkboxes where you've ticked no, they are actually so painful that they outweigh the pain of having to spend your energy with that person. So even though they check all the boxes except a couple, it's these couple that might have so much leverage and pain against your love being freely given. Kind of like if there's this person who thinks they're so perfect and they do all these nice things to you, but they kind of expect something from you. And you kind of feel this breath down your shoulders and this guilt building up inside of you because you can't really reciprocate because it might not be within your capacity to do so. And so you see, it is so important to look at the really tiny details when you're dating, when you're in a relationship, when you're going through a breakup and you're trying to recover from that. Because it's not just superficial stuff. It's not just like, oh, they were a narcissist, end of story, I'm an innocent victim, they're to blame. That is so surface level. It's like, he was a bold guy, it was like, what? Now, I want to go back to that question of, do you or would you date a man who is bold? Would you date a man who listens to Andrew Tate? Would you date a girl who goes clubbing, etc.? And you tick all these little boxes and you make your decision based off of only one tiny factor with zero context, maybe with some of the implications kept in mind, such as lack of accountability and responsible behavior, etc. There is something about love in these scenarios, in these contexts, that you need to know about. And that is, love cannot be earned. Love is given at the discretion of the giver. That means if you want someone to love you, you do need to check a lot of green boxes for that person's particular taste, whilst also not letting any of the negative ticks cause pain that impress upon the other person. Because if these boxes are ticked and the focus is more on a less painful checkbox area, then you will be able to receive love. If your romantic interest or partner or even your ex, if their focus is on something else other than the tick boxes that make them happy, that align with their worldview of how love works, then they will not choose you. But if you can satisfy all these tick boxes and not cause any pain, then they're more likely to give love, because love is energy. It is an expression and it must be expressed. Just like anger and disgust and other types of emotions, they're all energy and they all must be expressed. They cannot be suppressed. Even suppression in itself is a form of energy expressing itself. Love, particularly, requires a certain route to travel through. It requires a bit of a path. And the funny thing about giving and receiving love is that in order to give and receive love, the universe has a position stance where everything else is not possible except through a few exceptions. For example, I know this sounds really strange, but a square, it has four sides, four face, or like one face, right? It could be a cube, doesn't really matter. It has four sides. If the cube or the square has any more sides than that, it is not a square. The universe says, no, that's not a square. But if it has four sides, then the universe is like, yes, that is a square. And so love is exactly the same. If it's a triangle, then curiosity or frustration is expressed, etc. If your car has working wheels, a working engine, a working transmission, a working steering wheel, and is exceptionally safe to drive, then it is yes, that is a car. It is a safe car. You can drive that car. But if the tires pop, you cannot drive that car. If the internal combustion engine collapses, the engine will not rotate, and you cannot drive that car. It is the same with love. Love is like all those pistons in the engine. They must all be working perfectly. All the tick boxes must be marked off correctly. Same with hot and cold. If the engine is too cold, that could be a problem. If the engine's too hot, again, that will be a massive problem. But if the engine's temperature is just right, about 90 Celsius, that's okay. Love can only be expressed through this very specific way. Like the square has 4 sides, it can only be a square if it's got 4 sides. Otherwise, the universe says no. That is the universe's default position. And love is an expression of energy. It wants to be expressed, and whatever receives love deserves to receive that love. But it cannot be accessed or given if there is a mismatch. I think that's the long story short. Now, I want you to take away from this, if you've followed me so far, is if someone isn't giving you the love that you think that you deserve, or if you'd like to be the one to give some love, then tick these boxes and reduce the negative boxes. Now, these pros and cons will always exist. They're always going to exist. But you just want to make it extremely favorable to the other party that you are an excellent option. You can present yourself as an excellent option by having more leverage, per se, in this category. And if you have the ability to transmutate a no into a yes, then this is your advantage. You can offer an environment in which it becomes possible for someone else to love you. If they did not want to love you yet, did you create the environment in which that person is able to say yes? And even if you do have that environment where they can say yes, have we recognized that they have the capacity? If they don't have the capacity, why don't have that capacity? Maybe we're coming on too strong. Maybe we're not coming on strong enough. Maybe their focus is somewhere else, and we need to figure out what neuroassociations of pain they're thinking about that prevents them from saying yes. Yes is the miracle, no is the default. Now, at the end of the day, there is nothing you can really do to earn the love. They have the discretion to give it, and that's on them. But you can do whatever you can to make it as irresistible as possible for them to express the energy that they have.